This kid is a nerdy loser that gets bullied by everyone, mostly because of his obsession to prove that aliens are real. A girl named Momo sticks up for him, but the clueless nerd thinks that she must love him because of it. The dummy puts Momo in danger to try and prove to her that aliens exist, but he ends up finding a ghost instead. Legend says that something terrible will happen if the ghost catches up to you, but the ghost is incredibly fast, and she is catching up to the nerd who is running for his life. This all started when a guy was upset with Momo for not giving him money and not letting him get close to her. They end up battling it out, but the guy decides to just leave her. That jerk was Momo's first boyfriend, but her hideous friends don't sympathize with her. She only liked the guy because he looked like some other guy named Ken Takakura. She wants to find a guy like Ken and looks for someone to comfort her. She finds another student getting bullied, but the bullies are shocked when she takes the kid's side. She decides that the dweeb isn't worth her time, but the bullies have stopped bothering him, so she leaves. The nerd assumes that she must be in love with him because she wouldn't have talked to him otherwise, and he frantically shows her what he was reading. The president has gone to Mars, but the girl isn't interested. The nerd continues anyway and explains that the U.S. military has officially acknowledged the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena. Their government has also created several defense forces, so the nerd believes that the space wars are about to begin. Momo is done being nice, and she doesn't want to hear about his conspiracies, so she tells him that this is why he doesn't have any friends. She feels bad after hurting his feelings and apologizes for going too far. She explains that she doesn't believe in aliens, but she lets her guard down and reveals that she does believe in ghosts. The nerd surprisingly laughs and mocks her because only idiots believe in ghosts. So, this leads to an argument. Momo explains that her grandma is a spirit medium, and she has seen her do exorcisms before. The nerd points out that those were probably just convulsions. And it's no proof that ghosts exist, Momo counters by wondering if the nerd has ever seen any aliens before. Momo's friends spot her arguing, and they determined that she must have given up on finding her dream boyfriend like Ken Takakura. Instead, she seems to have chosen an otaku. The two settled their argument by deciding to have a competition. Whoever can prove what really exists will win, and the loser will have to be the winner's slave. That night, Momo is terrified when the nerd sends her to an abandoned hospital. He explains that it's a UFO hotspot, and if she calls for a UFO on the roof, she will be abducted. Momo has no clue what that is, so he explains that it's when aliens kidnap you and conduct experiments on your body. Momo wonders if he has ever been abducted before, but he doesn't know because those who get abducted end up having their memories erased. The two argue again because the nerd won't admit that he has never seen a UFO, but we see that something is following Momo. As for the dweeb, he arrives at the spiritual hotspot that Momo sent him to. This place is terrifying, but he is determined to prove that ghosts don't exist. He is horrified when he hears a strange screaming noise, so he loudly announces his presence. Momo explains that speaking loudly is the most dangerous thing to do, so the kid assumes that Momo has experience interacting with ghosts. It turns out that Momo has never even seen one before, so they start arguing again. Momo explains that she just believes her grandma, and she is all she has after her parents died. The nerd starts acting nice, so Momo explains how weird her family is. They have always made her perform a good luck ritual before stepping outside, and she would have to do it the entire way to school. Of course, this led to her getting bullied relentlessly, and it hurt the most when the boys she liked made fun of her. Her grandma would get upset if she didn't do it, So Momo used to hate her. Momo didn't talk to her grandma until recently, and she stopped doing the ritual. Momo eventually realized that what she really hated was how the boy she liked made fun of her grandma. She loved her grandma for taking her in, and that is why she believes in ghosts. Momo wants to know why the dude believes in aliens, but he doesn't say why. Just then, the kid sees some strange footprints, and some terrifying ghost says some perverse things to him. The nerd runs for his life, and Momo explains what she has heard on the internet. According to some forums, someone that encounters the old lady can't let her outrun them at any costs. If they lose a race against the Turbo Granny, they will be cursed. The granny catches up to the nerd, so he screams in terror, and Momo decides to go help him. Unfortunately, she has her own problems as she is attacked by a trio. Momo finds herself in a pretty strange spot, and the trio introduces themselves as Serpoians, as they are from the planet Serpoi. Momo is horrified to realize that these are real-life aliens, but they assure her that they are friendly. Momo points out that nice aliens wouldn't take people's clothes. The aliens just assure her that they have taken proper care of her belongings, but Momo sees that they tore everything to shreds. Momo demands that they let her go, but the aliens just ignore her to explain their story. Their kind only has males, so they reproduce through cloning technology. They have been having problems with that technology, though, so they want to regain reproductive functions similar to humans. They plan to use Momo for this, but she refuses, as she didn't even let her ex-boyfriend get close to her. Momo is saving herself for a Ken Takakura type, so she demands that they let her go. The creepy aliens use telekinesis to convince her, but they are shocked to find that she is resisting it. Just then, Momo's phone rings, and a leg comes straight out of the screen to kick it in the face. The Turbo Grandma that was chasing the nerd comes through the phone screen and absolutely wrecks one of the aliens. Momo is horrified to see that this monster is actually the nerd, and he explains that he was cursed by Turbo Granny. The aliens are impressed by how he traveled through the phone, because not even they have that kind of technology, but the nerd begs for help because he can't control himself. The creepy aliens prepared to take his organs, but the nerd is moving way too fast, and they can't land their telekinesis. The Naruto of aliens uses some kind of jujutsu to send the kid flying, and the alien just tells them to give up his organs. The nerd surprisingly agrees and explains that he has been waiting to see aliens for the longest time. He never had any friends, so he thought that aliens would at least accept him as their friend. He has been calling to the skies for a UFO since grade school, but they never came. Bullies mocked him, and aliens ignored him, so no one ever acknowledged his existence. However, Momo stood up for him despite all of that. Because of this, the nerd warns the aliens not to lay a finger on her because he won't allow anyone to hurt her. He is willing to sacrifice everything for her, even though they just met, and he is even willing to become a monster to rescue her. Momo cheers him on as he fully transforms, but the alien blasts him, and Momo is shocked to see how quickly he gives up. The creepy alien goes back to using telekinesis on Momo, but she fights it, and she has a memory. Her grandmother wanted her to let her chi out by doing the ritual, but Momo didn't want to because everyone was making fun of her. Her grandmother insisted and walked Momo through the ritual. She had to tighten her core and imagine chi shooting up from the top of her head. Momo did just like her grandmother said, but she had serious PTSD from getting made fun of. She had enough of the crazy old bat, so Momo decided to never do the ritual again, and she told her grandmother that she hated her for being a fake spirit medium. Momo now apologizes for what she said, and she performs the ritual. She imagines chi shooting up from the top of her head, and this shockingly sets her free from the alien's restraints. The nerd can't believe his eyes, as it becomes clear that Momo can somehow use psychic powers. Momo can't believe it either, and the alien can't understand why his telekinesis is getting pushed back. He wonders if he pushed her into opening her chakras, but Momo just says that it's because her grandma was a real spirit medium. Momo thanks her grandma because she now has the power to fight back. With Momo's newfound power, she absolutely destroys the last alien and sends it flying straight into the moon. The fake moon explodes and reveals that it was actually the UFO. Momo searches for the nerd so they can escape, but his monstrous form attacks her instead. She tells him to snap out of it so he can regain control. Momo uses some power to separate the nerd from the granny, and the granny demands to know who Momo is. Momo is horrified to see that the nerd is still cursed, even though the granny has left his body. So the old bag explains that she still has possession of his man parts. As long as she retains control, the nerd will be cursed. The granny must return to the tunnel. So she tells them to meet her there if they want to lift the curse on the nerd. The granny isn't a threat for now, but the UFO is about to come crashing down. The UFO eventually crashes through a building and smashes into the ground. The nerd concludes that he must now believe in ghosts, considering he was just cursed by one, and Momo has no choice but to believe in aliens. After being abducted, they are still in an awkward situation, considering how the nerd will lose control of himself if Momo doesn't hold the curse back with their psychic powers. The only way for the nerd to lift his curse is by beating the snot out of the granny. The nerd has no choice but to go and fight her, so he leaves his clothes for Momo, so she has something to wear on her way home. Momo reminds him that he will lose control without her, but the nerd doesn't want to get her involved any further. The nerd says that he will make it work on his own somehow, and he will just use willpower to get him to the tunnel. Momo wishes that he would just ask for her help, because he clearly wouldn't have survived without her earlier. The nerd wonders if it's really okay for someone like him to ask for help, and Momo assures him that it's okay. She tells him to put his clothes on, but the nerd asks her to put them on instead because he won't be able to talk to her otherwise. Just then, Momo's heart begins to race. She can't understand why, but she realizes that the nerd just happened to recite one of Kentoku Kira's lines. Momo manages to calm herself down, so she finally asks for the nerd's name. The nerd introduces himself as Ken Takakura, and Momo is overwhelmed with shock.